Hello, I'm Tom007 and this time I'm going to show you how to not get into any problems as an officer. I'll be using the resources that are available to you. You can check them yourself in resources, division resources, and then in supervisor policy, which is police supervisors and supervisor policy. All right. You can read all these, but they're mostly about being a supervisor, as the name suggests. But here there is a really important section that shows the classifications of misconduct. So basically, misconduct is something you can do incorrectly on duty as an officer. There are three general classifications: minor misconduct, misconduct, and gross misconduct. Those three classifications differ. For minor misconduct and misconduct, it's up to the supervisor if he decides to give you a reprimand, or he will make an internal affairs complaint for the company committee to process and the IA. In case of gross misconduct, the supervisor who is on duty cannot really deal with the situation. However, he cannot issue a punishment. However, he can even suspend you, because if the officer thinks that you're a danger to yourself or the surroundings or anyone else, then you can be suspended. The suspension is not a penalty. The suspension is for further investigation, so for the internal affairs complaint to be processed. So basically, this is the worst misconduct you can do. I wouldn't recommend doing any of these, but I'll go through all of them. Some of them may be in depth because it's possible, and some of them are so general that you have to know yourself what is inside of the misconduct classification. So first we have the minor misconduct. So this is the least severe one, you might say, but it's also important to not break this misconduct. So 01, discourtesy. This is when an officer is discourteous towards a member of the public, a suspect, or another fellow officer, maybe a supervising officer, maybe a high rank officer, whatever. As a police officer on duty, you should not be discourteous towards anyone. This is a general rule. It's also listed in the Code of Ethics that you should stay professional and you cannot be discourteous. This is as easy as it is. Then we have traffic offenses, and these traffic offenses are, in instance, running a red light, not stopping on a stop sign, a bit of speeding. So these are pretty minor. These are you would normally get a ticket of $1,000 or $2,000 for them if you were a civilian. However, it's said here that it may also be duty of care. So we're coming back to the example of an officer driving wrong way on the highway. This is a traffic offense because you're driving wrong way. However, it's so severe that it puts life of civilians and other officers in danger, and so it can be classified as duty of care, which we will discuss later. Okay, now we go to misconduct. This is still the classification that a supervising officer can deal on duty. He can get the reprimand for it. However, he can decide on creating an internal affairs complaint on you. We have 03, policy SOP violation. What are SOPs? SOPs are standard operating procedures. These are some form of example of behavior that officers are expected to have in certain situations. This is very wide. There are many policies in the PD whatsoever regarding equipment, certain situations, when some equipment can be used, how to handle certain situations. There are many of policies, and this is just a general classification under which you can just break any policy. If you break any policy, an officer can classify the misconduct as such. And that's basically it. I will not go in depth for this because there's so many policies to discuss that it's not even possible for now. Now we have 04, unlawful charge. This is a classification that says you did charge a civilian incorrectly. It is also connected with confiscating any illegal firearms. I mean, with substances, it's basically not the case. If we're talking about drugs are always illegal, so you can't really confiscate them unlawfully. However, unlawful charge also includes confiscation. So basically, if you give someone a ticket for 12.12 reckless driving and he can prove that he didn't do it or he wasn't the driver of the vehicle, then it's unlawful charge. As well, if you confiscate a weapon that shouldn't be confiscated as it was transported legally and it wasn't used in crime, then it is also unlawful charge. We have 05 unlawful entry. This is basically when you enter an apartment, a building, or any private premises without any justifiable reason. So officers can enter private properties when it's crucial for their investigation. If it's not crucial for their investigation, they cannot really enter or forcefully enter a property. So you better have a good reason to raid a property or a warrant. Do not just enter random property yourself, as you might get yourself in trouble. Then we got unlawful search. So basically, to search someone, you have to have any reasonable suspicion that he was involved in crime. An example, there were shots fired in the area. Then you arrive on scene and there are 3 people standing and laughing around. You cuff them and search them. That's a probable cause that they were involved in a shootout. However, if you just come up to a random person on the street, then cuff them and search them, this is an unlawful search because you don't have any reason to search them, and you wouldn't normally search random people on the street. It's not like the police will do checkpoints and randomly frisk people. So search people when you have a good reason to, when they were involved in crime or you have a strong reasonable suspicion that they were involved in crime. 07 insubordination. This basically says that you need to follow orders given by a higher rank officer. If you're an officer, you're subordinate to senior officers, corporals, sergeants, and all of the above. You need to listen to them. It is very important. Sometimes it's just minor and they will just not care if you don't listen. But sometimes for them, it is extremely important for you to listen and to do what they say because they have allegedly a wider view of a situation and they are just giving orders because they are trained to do so. They are experienced enough to give you some orders. So this is important as well. Remember that you can get a reprimand for it and you will most likely get one if you encounter any supervisor and you don't listen to his direct commands. Just remember about that. If someone is higher ranked than you, you have to listen to them. And now we're going to gross misconduct. This is the most severe cases. It's really, really hard to do gross misconduct not on purpose. So it's basically, in general, this is the officers that just do it on purpose. We have 08, failure to report misconduct. This is an interesting one. If someone reports you to the internal affairs and then to the complaint committee, it's their duty. If they fail to do so, they might encounter some problems. So don't really judge people on, oh my god, this guy made an IA on me and it was sustained and I got a punishment. If he failed to do so, he would also face punishment. This is the police. This is not criminal world. Here are policies and officers need to follow them. So if an officer is experienced and professional, he will report every misconduct he encounters on duty. This is important. And again, remember, it's not that they don't like you. They will face their own problems if they fail to report what they've seen you do. All right, so just remember about that. All right, now we have dishonesty. This is basically when an officer deceives other officers or member of the public, and this is very rare, to be honest. You can be dishonest in any way. However, as an officer here, you're also a judge, an attorney, everyone. You're a lawyer. You basically arrest someone, you charge them, you put them to jail, and you should be honest doing that, as the citizens are expecting you to be. And you are here to act in the best interest of the city, so it's better for you to just stay honest. As I said, this misconduct is extremely rare, however it might happen, so keep that in mind. Next we have excessive force. We're coming now to the more like often ones that I encounter in the IA. So excessive force is when an officer uses a disproportionate amount of force to the threat presented. It's basically written here. However, it means, in example, that your suspect is cuffed and he still tries to like walk away from you, and you use an ASP baton. So this should not happen. As he's cuffed, you can drag him. If you want to check anything about this, it's basically relevant to go to information, resources and handbook, and then to the use of force policy, when you can see which force is reasonable to which threat presented by the suspect. So I'm sending you right here to this image in the handbook. It is the most important one regarding excessive force, misconduct, and if you follow this like pyramid triangle, you will not get in any problems. You'll not, trust me. All right, another one is shooting violation. It's basically when an officer discharges his firearm without a valid reason. There is a crowd at the bazaar, nothing is really going on, and you just go to the middle of bazaar as an officer and shoot in the air. Or I don't know, you drew your firearm and you pressed the trigger by accident. It happens. You can get trouble for it, as you're discharging your firearm in public without a legally justifiable reason. Keep that in mind. Your firearm is really, really dangerous, and you should not ever shoot it, even by accident, when there's no threat presented. There are no warning shots. We don't do that. Just don't shoot your firearm unless you're unloading it on someone who is a direct threat to any life. We have criminal activity. This happens from time to time as well. This is when an officer really commits a serious crime or offense, such as 9.2 physical assault with an offensive weapon, 9.5 murder. Trust me, it happens. Sometimes an officer will just finish off a dead body for some reason. That is murder. Sometimes an officer just decides to shoot up someone for no reason, and then maybe he even stays alive, so it's 9.2. It generally is about an officer committing a crime that is a felony. So basically, you can go to Parallax says lost, and if you check felony and see an officer doing so, this is extremely serious, as this is gross misconduct, and he will probably face many problems for it. The last classification is also a wide one, 13, duty of care. Duty of care is a misconduct classification when an officer acted against the city, basically, and citizens. We are here, the police force is here to protect the citizens, and if we fail to do it by neglecting our duties or by doing intentionally something that puts any civilian life in danger, that is duty of care. So there are many situations I can give examples for. An example, if we have a suspect with a firearm shooting at us and we shoot him down, we have to take care of him even though he was shooting at us. Cuff the body, get the weapon, and call medics. Do not immediately confiscate the weapon and leave the scene, as doing so will be neglecting your duties. Therefore, it will be duty of care, as you're leaving a cuffed suspect to die in the middle of the street. Another example, we're coming back to the one about driving on the highway, driving wrong way on the highway. This is a significant threat to any civilian's life, as you're speeding down the highway wrong way and just waiting for a head-on-head collision with a car going the right direction. Anything that you might think an officer does intentionally or not that puts any civilian life in danger, of course this is not a suspect's life that is shooting it back at you, it might be classified as duty of care. And just again, for minor misconduct and misconduct, you can face a reprimand instantly or an internal affairs complaint that will be processed by the IA, and the company committee will vote on the outcome. And for gross misconduct, you can get a reprimand, but it is the complaint committee who decides. What is up to the supervising officer on duty is if the misconduct was so severe that you're a danger to any civilian and yourself or any other officer, and then he can also suspend you pending further investigation. It is not a punishment, however, it will take a week or two to know what is the outcome of the IA complaint. So by doing gross misconduct, you just risk being suspended from the PD for a week or two, and then God knows what happened. It is the company committee who decides if you get a written warning, a demotion, a reprimand, a comment card. So keep that in mind whenever you patrol. It's better actually to learn by heart all the classifications, so you know, just like you know the law, then you know this is like the law of a police officer. This here, this says what can you face a disciplinary action for. If you receive any IA complaint on you, it will be visible in the Internal Affairs and Complaints tab. There is a tab, Internal Affairs Complaints on you. I'm not going to show you this page as I have a lot of Internal Affairs complaints made, and I'm not sure if any of the people enclosed there would like to see or be visible that they made some form of misconduct. After that, we're back to your profile, and if the Internal Affairs complaint, there was an action in the Internal Affairs complaint, such as a reprimand or a written warning, you can go to infractions, and then the infractions will be listed here. I'll also go through the types of infractions. So the infractions you can get, and basically any punishments, vary a lot. You can get a comment card, which is just a message from your direct command to you. Oh, you should not do it. And if you need to learn a way how to improve and not repeat yourself in the future, here's some tips. This is the comment card. Then you can get a reprimand. A reprimand is a formal warning that will be placed on your record for 30 days and then automatically disappear. Basically, what it means, the committee decided that a punishment should be really put on the officer. So they decide on a reprimand, you get the reprimand, and then you'll get it for 30 days and that will disappear. If your offenses are a bit more severe, you can get a written warning. Written warning is there on your record for 90 days and it will not disappear automatically. You need to ask the Professional Standards Department in order to remove that infraction, the written warning. So remember about that. If you got a written warning, you have the right to message Professional Standards and they will remove this from your record, probably. Then we have demotion. So basically you can be demoted to probationary officer from officer, but you can be demoted to any rank from any rank. So if I'm a sergeant, I'll most likely be demoted to corporal. If I'm a corporal, I'll most likely be demoted to senior officer. However, the company committee can decide whatever they want. I guess they can even demote you from sergeant straight to probationary officer if they think this is necessary. The last and the most severe form of punishment is dishonorable discharge. This happens rarely. I mean it. There are many situations with new officers that still get demoted to probationary officer instead of being discharged. For some people, this is even like more of a problem to just be discharged. Basically, when you're discharged, you receive a blacklist for some amount of time. You lose your rank, you lose all your progress you made in the PD ever. And then you can, when you want to come again on duty, you'll just need to pass the officer application again and again. But again, this is reserved for repeated offenders or the most severe cases. Basically, if an officer goes to bazaar and kills several people for no reason with his service issued firearm, or unloads a magazine on a dead body on purpose. So these are the cases where the officer most likely will be dishonorably discharged from the force. Once again, I hope you will not get any infractions on your record. I hope maybe I explain you how to find and how to not get yourself in any problems, and how to find the policies where you can see for what you can get those problems. And see you next time.